Welcome back, pod people, to a brand new episode of Cinema d'Amore, a brand new theme. I'm your host, Justin Morgan. I'm here with
Chuck.
And we have a guest, a special guest.
It's me, K. Jacob. I'm back.
And we are discussing samurai films.
Oh, yeah. We did so many great spaghetti westerns that we had to discuss the films that inspired them. Or these not them.
Not directly, but more or less.
Definitely influence.
These are different kind of noodle dishes.
That's right.
More or less everything that we are discussing this month has been remade by another country. Or the same.
Pretty much, yeah.
The first episode is Harakiri. It's 1962's. Yeah, 1990.
But there was one. They remade it in like 1990 or early 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
I think Takeshi Miike did, didn't he?
Yeah, your boy.
Yeah. Which I have to say, I've seen that one, and I feel like that is actually a completely different movie from what I watched recently.
This Harakiri is probably one of the first couple samurai movies that I've ever watched, and one of my favorites right out the gate, thanks to the Criterion Collection. I think everyone under the sun has pretty much have seen this movie by now.
This was my first viewing, by the way. This was not at all what I was expecting. I think I told you earlier, I said I was actually, I really enjoyed this more than I thought I would, because as I was watching it, it's not at all what I was expecting. But I still got my payoff.
It's probably my favorite samurai movie to date. I do love Seven Samurai and Kurosawa's movies, but my favorite is Ikiru, so I'll say this is my favorite samurai movie. Or anti-samurai movie, because everything that I fucking like is usually...
Yeah, I was gonna say, anti-samurai.
Yeah, I'm like, my favorite westerns, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, just
Something
anything
like that.
that's very anti the genre that it is supposed to be. Those are the movies that I end up loving.
Let's give a brief synopsis of this film. You want a brief synopsis of this bad boy?
I mean, I don't think you can really give a brief synopsis.
We can use the IMDb one.
What's the IMDb one say?
Well, you want the short one or the long one?
I'm interested in what the short one is.
Okay. When a Ronin requesting seppuku at a feudal lord's palace is told of the brutal suicide of another Ronin who previously visited, he reveals how their pasts are intertwined, and in doing so, challenges the clan's integrity. That's actually a pretty good synopsis.
Yeah, that's a better synopsis than I would have gave off the cuff.
I do like the second one. It gets a little long-winded, but it's kind of funny how it plays out.
Gotta give us the long-winded one now.
Instead of a Ronin this time, it's a samurai, Hanshira Sugumo, arrives at the house of the E clan with an unusual request. Due to his circumstances, he wishes to commit Harakiri, a ritual suicide, in the courtyard of the house. Turns out this is not such an unusual request. The clan has had such requests before, though the requester's intentions weren't always honorable. The clan elder tells Tsukumo the story of the last samurai who made the request and how that ended. Will he still go through with it? The short version was much better.
And the last samurai is not the last samurai, so
It's so confusing.
it's misleading.
It's very misleading. I think the short synopsis said it best, yeah. But wow, what a film.
It's a good movie to jump into for one of your first samurai movies to begin with, because they like
It's
to
kind of a fuck you.
well, they explain things fairly well. They explain the idea of Harakiri,
Yeah, how seppuku actually works.
what was going on, why there's so many Ronins,
Mhm.
what a Ronin is. If you didn't know anything, if you knew nothing at all, this catches you up with a lot of things.
It was nice for me as someone who's, I'm just a fan of the genre of samurai films, and so a lot of the understanding that I have of that culture from Japan is mostly from movies, which we all know you should not get your culture from film. That's not how it works. But I do some of my own research as well when I'm fascinated by a subject. I'm like, well, how is it really over there? And I have to say, this film does a great job of even discussing those points of view. Like, there's the scene where they talk about, they break down what seppuku is, how it works, what the actual ritual is, what they're going to do. And then they have a moment where they elaborate, some people do it this way, but we don't have time for these false rituals. And they tell you like other options. And I was like, oh, I've seen it committed that way in movies before. And it's like, yeah, that's the fake way. So they even have a nice way, while kind of like being an anti-samurai movie, they're also insulting samurai films that are pro-samurai but don't do it properly. It's kind of unique. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, making a war film, but we're not glorifying the military. That's
Exactly.
same thing. Chuck, is this one of your favorite samurai movies too?
It's up there. I mean, my favorite's going to be Lone Wolf and Cub.
The Cub, yeah, baby.
That's
Lone
just-
Wolf and Cub is the classic.
that's
It's
just
the
that's just a
definition.
great-
That
That I feel
version,
like
like
is-
the actual Japanese version.
I love them both equally. I mean, the first version I saw was the Shogun Assassin version.
Yeah.
It combines them, but when watching, finally getting to see the original versions, I still love those movies. That probably would have been my first samurai movie that I saw, because I saw that when I was in high school. That's just one that it just sticks with you. It's a really good. They're really solid movies. I feel like that doesn't get into like all the details of samurai life like a movie like this does, but it's good. It has brings in that more like mystical, almost like supernatural quality to samurai. Like, it doesn't make them, the samurai are still all the bad guys. The only one you root for is the main character, who is going around with his son. All the other samurai are terrible people.
Yeah.
That's the plot of like the third movie, is that
But
he
you gotta
finds a
remember,
bunch of
they're
samurai
not
that-
samurai, they're ronin.
yeah.
They don't have a house
They
to
always-
serve. A samurai that doesn't have a house to serve is a ronin. And
put
specifically
that.
in Lone Wolf and Cub, they were straw hat ronin, which means they were just mercenary thugs that had no honor.
I
No
fucking
one
love it.
anywhere.
I had to geek out with you for a moment.
Oh, it also blows my mind too, and I bring it back to the Hays Code. The fact that I'm seeing such violence from a 1962 movie.
My God, yeah, you talk about a slow burn, but the gore was impressive.
It basically, if you like Saw, it has a moment that looks like it could be out of a Saw movie. It has sword fighting, although you do have to wait for that. You have to basically be more invested in the storytelling.
And I'll say this too, without jumping too far ahead, because we'll get to this point, but I love the term, the bamboo samurai. They could have gone with something there, and we'll explain that comment later, but I just love the term that they use, the bamboo samurai.
I mean, you could jump right into the bamboo samurai. It's pretty early on in the movie.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Well, as the synopsis explained, when the opening story is a man requesting to commit seppuku at the feudal lord's presence, they tell him the story of a previous Ronin that came through claiming the same thing. Apparently, during this time, during the houses being broken apart and samurai basically having no masters, they became Ronin. Some of them just couldn't find work. All they know is the sword, and if they couldn't get hired, they were like, fuck it, just kill myself. But there was like a scam going on. So like the early version of the scamming your grandmas on the internet kind of deal going on, like the Nigerian prince scams, was Ronin showing up claiming to commit seppuku so that they could die with honor, but no one wanted to deal with that. They're like, look, dude, we really don't want to like bloody our house up with your dead body for this shit, so we'll just give you some silver and you can go away. And so like it was like the scam that was going on. That's what they said. There was a lot of people talking about it, right?
Imagine that nowadays, if somebody just showed up at your house and was like, yeah, I'm gonna kill myself on your front lawn, and you're just like,
Here's
I'll
20
give you
bucks,
$100 not to do that. And it's like, deal.
Yeah, that's the best way. That's perfect.
That was just a whole
analogy.
scam. It's like,
That was it.
that's on the news, is like, beware a random man. He will threaten to kill himself. We don't think he's actually going to do it, though. So, I mean, if you don't want to pay him, like, you call his bluff. Like,
Right.
then later on the news, he did it.
Yeah.
He did it right on this guy's front lawn.
He did it. What's great too about this film is the way you broke that analogy down is great, because that's exactly what they were saying. Is like, they're like, we keep hearing these scams of these Ronin claiming to do this and getting money and leaving. Why should we give them money? So basically, the first samurai, they forced him to go through with it. They're like, okay, fine, do it. You can do it. And the problem is he's desperate. He really is destitute and desperate. And this whole time you're thinking, oh, he's a scam artist. He's got a charade. 'Cause they're like, look at his weapons. His sword is made of bamboo. It's not even metal. Like, he's not even a real samurai. And basically being insulting. So for the first 30 minutes of this film, you're like, yeah, this guy is a piece of shit. What a horrible guy. Who dare claims to be a samurai and have no honor and carry fake swords. And basically when he commits harakiri, they force him to use his bamboo to gut himself. There's your Saw gore. It's fucking epic. And I love that scene where he's just trying to stab himself and it's not working, so he just like full force shoves himself and impales himself on the ground to gut, but he can't even fully gut because it's bamboo. So as he's just bleeding out horrendously, then they finally cut his head off. But it was a brutal non-honorable harakiri style. It was pretty rough. And then Sugumo shows up, and it's basically word for word says the same things, but he has real skill. He proves it. He's like, yeah, he goes, I'm too old. I don't give a shit. I want to kill myself honorably and be done with this world. Okay, and so they try to scare him off by telling him the story that we just witnessed by watching The First Samurai. And as he goes through, he's like, no, I'm good. I got a story for you, though, while we're waiting. And thus the pieces start to fall into place.
It starts with our main character, and when they get into the story, we get the flashback. But when that guy shows up to commit harakiri or request the harakiri, it's verbatim, which I really love the story as, like, I feel like they copied and pasted it on the script.
Too. Yeah, well, they shot for shot it, too. Did you notice that? Like, they did the same movements and everything.
They kept their colors different. You know, the guy in the flashbacks wearing light colored clothes. The main character is wearing black, so I think whenever it's jumping back and forth, that helps.
The first character is much younger looking, so it's kind of believable that surely he's not a samurai. He's too young. The other guy's an old, gruffy, bearded man who's just like doesn't give a shit. I love how
he shows up. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll kill myself. Don't worry about that." But
yeah, so you get that sweet gory scene with the bamboo. You know, thus they call them. You know, they start spreading rumors like the bamboo samurai. It's an insult and all that. Then you spend the next hour and a half of this movie with them just telling this story. While he's telling the story, he keeps requesting a second. And when they commit seppuku, when harakiri is performed, they have a second. They have to disembowel themselves. And then their second steps up, and it's usually a skilled swordsman who with one clean strike will remove your head so that you may go to the afterlife and be in heaven or whatever. And so he's requesting seconds. He wants a second. And every second that he requests, they're like, oh, we can't reach this one. He's like, well, let me continue telling my story. And as he continues telling the story, he goes to request another one who's a skilled warrior. And that one doesn't show up. It's really funny how it starts to pace together because you're like, okay, something's different here. Like right away, you start to realize, like, I think there's more to this than they're saying. And he denies ever knowing the first samurai, but then Sumigo, you know, as he begins to tell his story, he says, I actually lied. I knew the first samurai, whose name is Shigawa, knew him very well. And then you go into this whole elaborate backstory of like how they ended up going from, you know, samurais to destitutes and to Ronin. And it's so fucking tragic.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tragedy from beginning to end. It's a guy showing up to commit suicide because of something that happened before that was another person committing suicide. And his flashback starts with his master committing suicide and his friend, like, there's just so much suicide in the very beginning of the movie.
There's a ton of harakiri, yeah.
And then after that, it's like, what? We get tuberculosis and things, shit like that. So there's lots of people dying. It's full-on tragedy.
And before we go further into this story, I just want to talk for a moment about the cinematography. I know normally you guys know me. I'm like, oh, I don't care. I just want something fun and exciting in a movie and like explosions and gore. But I have to say, this guy, I mean, he gives Akira Kurosawa a run for his money. The shots are beautiful. The pacing, everything is intentional. From beginning to end, they are telling a story and everything cinematically is shown in a way that brings that story to life. And it's so beautifully shot, so well done. The lighting is on point. The performance that the actors give, like the way that they walk, that they carry themselves, the way they unsheath their swords or put them back in, the grunts, the bowing, everything is so formal and perfectly paced. It's really well done. Like they capture so well that I'm trying to think of the word, but it's escaping my mind right now. But it's like perfectly encaptures that moment in time, I guess, where it's very ritual. Everything is ritual because, as we know, Harakiri, seppuku, it's a ritual suicide. So I thought that was kind of neat that the film itself is very ritualistic. I don't know, did you guys pick up on that? Did you happen to notice how performative everything was to a T?
I mean, it is a big show. That's why you go to kill yourself in front of a bunch of people. You could kill yourself anywhere, but like, no, I need.
But you
an
can't kill
audience of
yourself
at least-
honorably everywhere.
Yeah, I need at least like 50 people to watch this. It's like Mad Max. We just talked about that. You know, whenever they're gonna do something crazy that's probably gonna result in them dying, is when they always say, "Witness me."
Witness me, brother.
If no one's watching, does it even count?
It doesn't.
Exactly.
Well, and that's the thing they bring up too, is the watching aspect as well, is like, because you have to witness them so that they're able to carry on. And as an audience member, you're starting to feel like you're one of the members of the council witnessing what's happening. So yeah, to continue on, we get into this beautiful story, right? And we talked about, like, he keeps telling the story, and you realize that Shigesawa became Tsugumo's son-in-law, married his daughter, they had a family. For a while things were great. He said it was the best years of his life. He absolutely loved it more than he ever loved his life as a samurai. He was a grandfather, he had a family, he was happy, life was good, he had a grandson,
Made umbrellas.
yeah. And then you start piecing together this timeline that you're given, and you realize that the wife, she's always been frail in nature, and she starts to take on some kind of, weakness disease. And then unfortunately the baby ends up getting some kind of fever, and he's going comatose and dying, and so they are destitute and have no money. So Shigesawa, the first samurai from the beginning of the film, goes to, basically says, I have a plan. And it should be noted that during this time they were discussing between the two samurai, they were discussing, other samurai that have gone to do this ritual and been shooed away given money. So maybe he thought they would offer him money so that he could pay for medicine for his son and his wife. So he's destitute. He's destitute. He's desperate. Desperate.
I mean, he definitely believed that, because
Yeah.
when they're like, we'll let you go through with it, he was like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and he kept asking for a respite. He was like, I want a respite. Like, can I have just a day or two to just, I promise I'll come back here, I'll commit the ritual, I'll follow through. He's like, but I just need a day. And they denied him that. They forced him into this. And then as you're watching this unfold, you realize, like I said, coming back to the bamboo warrior, the bamboo samurai, it's even more insulting, because you realize, holy shit, this guy was a real samurai. He had real honor. He was going to go through with this. Forcing him to kill himself on the bamboo sword was horrible, because he sold his metal from his blades to try and save his family, to try and cure his son and his wife. That's how destitute he was. So it's like he was not a fake at all. And it starts to flip the script a little bit, where you start seeing the feudal lords and the people in charge as the assholes. Then it cuts back to Tsugumo, and he's talking about it. He basically kind of points out, like, yeah, so you forced him to die by his own weapon, which now he sold to try and provide for his family. And he brings up the point of, like, being insulted and called a bamboo samurai. He goes, but I think it's honorable. I think what he did was very prideful and powerful. Like, I'm proud of him. And it's like, dude, that's pretty ballsy. And of course, his body is sent back to them. And so then the son-in-law dies, then his daughter dies, then the baby dies, and now you have Tsugumo, who's like, well, my shit just fucking went to shit on me. So he intentionally goes to commit seppuku because he really does want to die. He has no more will to be in this world. And now we're back on point where you start realizing, like, they're like, okay, cool, what a sad story, but we don't really care because he made these choices. Now you're making these choices. Stop trying to talk your way out of this. You're going to commit it. And he says, oh, I never said I wasn't going to commit. I came here to commit harakiri. Like, I came here to do this. He's like, I just want to point some things out to you. And he starts pointing out all their hypocrisies of the shit they did. And then you start finding out that the seconds that he was calling on, their skilled samurai warriors that work for this clan, that they just wouldn't show up. They kept feigning to be sick, and they were like, oh, I'm sick, I can't be there. And that's when he starts pulling out top knots. Do you guys know, I mean, I know you're a fan of these shows, how important is a top knot to a samurai?
It's pretty dishonorable if someone were to cut it off your head.
As a samurai, you'd rather have your head cut off than have your top knot cut off, because it shows that you're not as skilled as the other warrior. it's an insult.
The way that the protagonist puts it, it's easier to kill somebody than it is to let them live and cut that off their head.
And that's what makes it epic. And then finally, after an hour and a half, we get some action. And it's good.
Well, also, those 3 people were the ones like directly involved with the decision for his son-in-law to kill himself on the bamboo sword. So he took it personally, and I took that personally.
I would have taken it. Well, that's the point in the movie when I'm watching this, and I'm like, wow, like that's when it hit me that I was like, okay, this is really good. I was not expecting this, and then like I took it personal because I was like, yeah, Sagumo. I was like, are you gonna fuck these dudes up or what? And then we get the flashbacks of like the previous days leading up to him going to the court, getting engaged in fights with these guys and letting them live, but removing their top knots. And he did it so cool, like in skillful ways where he'd actually slice it off as they were fighting, and he's like, you're fucked. It's so cool.
There's a point where they're like, just kill him, and he's like, listen, hear me out, let me finish my story, I'm gonna absolutely kill some of your guys. So
yeah, I love that too. He's like, if you don't let me finish, I will kill most of these men here and I'll still commit harakiri, or you can let me finish and I'll just commit harakiri.
Yeah, you don't want me to embarrass you, do you? So let me finish this damn story.
Which, as he finishes the story, he proceeds to continue embarrassing him, and it's so great. This is where that whole anti-samurai point comes into view. And it should be noted that, you know, I'm jumping around here and paraphrasing as we're taking to the story of what we watched, but clan, I forget the clan lord's name, the main
clan
guy.
itself.
Yeah, the clan is E, right?
E.
Clan E. But there's the main boss in charge, Bonuki or whatever. He has moments where it shows him and he's like, I come from an honorable clan. We are all about the samurai honorableness. Like, it's a powerful thing. He's like, we stand by these codes. We live and die by these codes. He goes, it's insulting to see samurai who claim to be samurai carry bamboo sticks and then try and perform, trick us into giving them money instead of going through a ritual. He's like, but not in this clan. You're going to say you're going to do it. You're going to fucking do it. You're going to have honor. He's like, and we made sure even with his bamboo sword, he went out with honor. Like, the whole thing is like this guy proving like we live by this code. It's a definite code. So that being noted, now he's realizing that his 3 top warriors, his 3 top samurai, his counselor, his advisors, his fucking men are not sick. They're hiding out in shame because they have had their top knots removed and they are no longer honorable. So now he's in this conundrum as well. And he's so angry. And that's when he just looks over at Sagumo and he's like, are you done now? And he's like, I am. He's like, all right, kill him. And then we have this epic 50-man on 1 battle.
Yeah, and he does pretty fucking good.
He does. And they do such a great job realistically showing like him like making his way through these guys where it's like he is outnumbered, and it shows him getting his...
He doesn't even start with a sword. I mean,
he starts with a short sword.
He starts with his short sword and...
kills a guy and takes his sword after fighting with a spear for a minute.
He still steals a guy's spear.
Yeah.
I love his little like side shuffle when he just like shuffling back and forth, like not even
the real
his
crazy
feet
shuffle where his feet are just shift. Like,
that's great. It's like a sideways moonwalk. Like his feet aren't ever actually stepping. He just keeps shuffling back and forth.
It makes me feel like he's mocking them at that moment. Like it is it's so stupid looking. Like he's like
he's like I could just get around you at any time. Like I'm just messing with you.
The best part is when he makes it to where they have the clan's samurai armor on display. And as an insult, he takes it and basically defiles it by, throwing it around and destroying it in front of them. And like, as they come in at him and he's like, fuck these dudes up and defiled their grounds. Then he looks at them all and he fucking guts himself and commits harakiri. And I was like, this dude's a badass. He's the only one who actually understood what real honor was, while the whole time he was telling them all, you're full of shit, you're not real samurai, and this whole thing, this code that you live by, it's a facade. He's like, I've experienced real life. I've experienced real battle. I've been tested. Yeah. And he's proven to this clan, this powerful clan that was like all about the code, how hypocritical they were, the double standard that they live. And the best part is the way this movie ended. So I was like, oh shit, is it over? And it's like, not yet. And then it shows that clan leader forced into a position where now he has to force his 3 powerful samurai to commit seppuku. They have to kill themselves because
one already killed himself.
One already did. And then he has to lie. And then him himself, though, he's still not honorable either, because after he puts the commands out there that they commit suicide, and if they don't do it willingly, we force them to. He goes, and then no one will know of this. He goes, they die of an illness. He's like, this man, we had no issues. We did. He goes, he asked of the people that, I think it was 50 soldiers he had that fought our Ronin. And the Ronin killed 4 guys and seriously, grievously injured 8. Yeah, the ones that died of illness. Please try and save the ones that are alive. But if they die, they too died of illness. We will never speak of this. He came here. He committed harakiri. There were no problems. He's like, also forced my 2 remaining samurai to commit harakiri because they lost their honor. He's like, and we're going to lie to everyone about this. They all died of illness. Like, he was shamed into covering it up, and he had to be dishonorable. It was fucking beautiful. It really was.
The last dishonorable thing they did too was they fucking shoot him instead of...
Yes, instead of taking his head, they shoot him to death. As he commits harakiri, they shoot him instead of remove his head. So he didn't even die the samurai's death. But at this point, he didn't care. He proved a point, and he did a damn good job doing it. I'll tell you what, that was awesome. That's why, for me, I was not expecting this level of film. Like, the way this is not a samurai film I'm expecting at all. And it's so epic and so well done. And like the whole time he's talking about how, like, just shitting on them and shitting on that culture, shitting on the warrior's code and the samurai code, and like telling them they're all full of shit, while simultaneously, non-hypocritically, he's doing what actual Ronin, what real samurai should be doing.
And the narration too kind of takes place of what would be the history of this clan, just lies. Says, you know, this is kind of what went into the history books, that this disease happened, and that's all that we're gonna say.
Plague.
Yeah, I do love the narration too. It's telling you this story, and you're hearing one thing while seeing a completely different story play out.
I do like them cleaning up like the massacre too, cleaning up all the blood and stuff.
Yeah, because it never happened, right?
Yeah, does that story get out? There's a lot of witnesses to that story.
Well, you know, they're samurai. They have honor. They'll keep their mouths shut because they've been all disgraced. And what's really great is they all have to live with the fact that they no longer actually have that real value, that real code that Tsugumo had. Tsugumo had a real code. He went by it. He lived by it. He died by it. There's even that scene where he realizes when his son-in-law's body is returned to him, and they're insulting him. And that's another thing too. Those guys were assholes. They insulted him even after they returned his dead body, having known nothing of what this man went through. And he realizes when he grabs his son-in-law's swords and pulls them out and sees that they're bamboo. I was so caught up in everything going on that I didn't even think to sell my swords to provide for you. He goes, I failed you. He realizes that he fucked up. He failed them too. I mean, he's not perfect, but what he did was unintentional. He just wasn't thinking, because he was a samurai for so long. He's like, your sword is your soul. It's a part of you. But to his son-in-law as a samurai, he didn't care about his sword. His family was his soul. It's really beautiful and really fucked up. It's really sad. But boy, does it pay off. It pays off well. It's such a well-done story. Of all the samurai movies I've watched before, it's the most coherent one for me, because I know sometimes the language barrier is difficult. Japanese culture is a lot different than American culture, so some things that they show you visually that as a Japanese citizen you would understand, as an American citizen you're like, why the fuck are you doing that? Doesn't make sense. This film does such a great thorough breakdown of everything that from beginning to end you fully understand exactly what you're watching, exactly what happened, and you see the double-sided hypocrisy of everything. So well done. I cannot praise this film enough. It may not be my favorite yet. It's definitely going up there. It is right now. It is number 2, vying for the number 1 spot. I just need to rewatch the first one, which we'll get to later because it's actually one of the ones I picked for this show. And I may see how I feel upon watching it again, having just watched this one.
Yours is still great. There's actually too many.
Mine's a little different too.
I don't say modern, but it's more contemporary. If that makes sense.
It's contemporary, yeah.
Not contemporary set, but like, yeah, contemporary in like the storytelling.
Yeah.
Gets that very brutal period of time where the art is also in like the lighting and the blood and the color of everything that they have. Even just blood on snow, like that just alone looks awesome.
I was really impressed with this. I was looking up the director.
Kobayashi.
Yeah, Masaki Kobayashi.
Yeah.
I actually don't recognize any of his other movies. But I'll tell you what, I definitely want to start checking some of them out. And he doesn't just do samurai. Like Akira is known, Kurosawa, he's known for samurai films. This guy actually does a ton of different style films.
He does a horror one that has a story that you might recognize if you've watched. Have you ever seen the
he does
have
have Tales of the Dark Side in there.
Does he really?
It's called Quaiden.
Yeah, it's the story. If you've seen Tales from the Dark Side, it's the one with the
gargoyles.
gargoyles.
Nice.
He does that.
Oh,
It's that same
Quaiden!
story,
I
so
own
it's
Quaiden.
based on
I
Japanese
love
folklore.
Quaiden. I own that movie. That's a great fucking movie. No wonder this movie is great. Shit, I think he might have just made #1 for Samurai, and he made it right after this. And I have seen Samurai Rebellion, which is also good. But then he has stuff like you said, he does horror, he does action. But he
Human
has
Condition's decent. It's just long.
Yeah. Well, and he has like it looks like I would say rom-com if that was a thing in the 60s, but like they're like
Didn't exist
it's
then.
like drama and romance with like light humor, deep dramatic movies.
He didn't make many films though. He was more like a fuck the system type of person, and
He was.
I don't think studios liked working with him.
Because he was a brilliant storyteller.
Sometimes these brilliant people are brilliant storytellers, but they're like down with the system, and they're like, the system is trying to help you make this movie right now. He's like, fuck you guys. I know that this script was originally supposed to be made for TV or something. They passed on it. I don't know what the TV version of this would have been, but to be like, I kind of like this story. Let's touch it up and put it out there on the big screen. And like you said, the cinematography is beautiful. The camera is almost always moving unless you're like intently locked in the story. And then
He does those great angles when like I think when they bring him the sword and they're like you gotta kill yourself with your sword, and then it does that crazy angle shot straight at his eyes.
It's like, what?
And he's
No,
like,
that's not a real sword, and you know it. That's fucked up. They wouldn't even give him a
Yeah.
real sword to use.
we even get one of the top knot fights that is out in the tall grass with the wind and everything. It's fucking sick.
The
Like, it's such a good shot.
classic tall grass samurai fight. It has all the elements of a samurai movie.
It really makes you want to go play Ghost of Tsushima again.
I was watching it. I was like, shit, because I'd never seen this before. But I had just recently, for the second time, run through Ghost of Tsushima. I realized how much they pulled specifically from this movie. There was a ton of shit they pulled from this movie, down to like the clothing, the weapon, the village sets, the grassy samurai fights, the clicking of the sword coming out where they use their thumb to pop it out like you do in the duels. That was from this movie.
Did any of you watch Shogun, the new Shogun that
Yes.
FX just did?
Yes, excellent show.
So that was like another book that they based that game off of heavily. It made me laugh too when I was watching the new version. You need to think about this and make some poetry out of it. I was like, there's the poetry sessions that are in the game.
This is
where
why
you-
I gotta go make a haiku on every mountain.
Yeah, like the two haikus. And you also do have the Harakiri that goes poorly with the main character when they do his flashback. He's not a very good swordsman.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he's like,
He's
can't
a
decapitate that
12-year-old
guy.
boy, and they're like, "What madman has a 8-year-old boy as his second?" And they're like, "God, you made a mess."
The history is also a lie in that, because the legend is that he was such a good swordsman, he cleanly took off his head in one swipe. But
At
when they
8 years
actually
old.
show you what happened, he couldn't fucking do it. So
Yeah, they're like, he chopped at it. He had to. He's like, "I was 8. What did you expect?" And it's funny because he doesn't deny the story at all. He's like, because it's folklore, it's myth. He's like, "I'm not that guy."
yeah, and this is a lot better because we don't have a random white guy in it as the protagonist of the story.
The random white guy in Shogun was a real man that it did exist, and he was a part of the story.
No, he's part of the story, but I don't think the story is not based
Very
in
much
reality
fictionalized
though.
for TV and drama. Yeah, it's very much fictionalized for drama.
It's great. I also like the Samurai trilogy with Mifune. Those are a great set of movies that you will probably love if you didn't see them before, Jacob.
I actually
Chuck's is
believe I
great.
have, yeah.
Some of the other ones, Samurai Rebellion's great. I just got a really obscure one I have to watch. I will have to watch it this month since we're talking about samurais. It's called The Haunted Samurai. It's supposed to be like the most violent,
Oh, that sounds great.
so much gratuitous sex
I
and
believe,
stuff. Like it's supposed to be like
uh,
way over the top.
I believe Blood on the Snow is supposed to be the most violent samurai film.
Well, you haven't heard about The Haunted Samurai, apparently.
I'm down. It sounds great. I love my old samurai horror films. I want to say Onibaba, but Onibaba is not so much about samurai as it's about two women that get a cursed mask that make them kill samurai that come through their village. Or excuse me, they kill Ronin. They kill Ronin.
It's the same director, but the other one that he did, Kuroniko, is more of a samurai movie because that is about how terrible the samurai were because they killed this guy's family, and then they come back and start killing samurai, the ones that were responsible for their murder.
Lots of killing. They're both great, and then they both kind of get into the the folklore, surrealism, horror of things as well.
I'm really shocked because I looked at our list that we have, and I don't want to give out spoilers as we go, but there's some great movies we're going to be covering. But I realized I don't think any of them are supernatural. I really like the list you picked out because it seems like most of them carry in the traditional sense of like a samurai film. But there are a ton of awesome supernatural samurai films out there. Even Kurosawa did one, which we're not covering, but I think it's called Goro or Goro. I'm having a hard time pronouncing it. It's Guru? You know the one I'm talking about? Goro? I think it's Kurosawa. Anyway, fact check me, fans. Let me know. I'm more than likely wrong, but that's okay.
That doesn't sound familiar to me, but then again, you're probably like you're one syllable off, my brain won't piece it together.
And then the next episode,
I'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen that.
It's actually in my collection. You just didn't pronounce it right, you stupid fuck.
I've watched tons of them. They're so good, and I think they get confused a lot with the good old Chuck's making me think of it with his Shaw scope behind him,
right?
Like the ridiculousness of the Shaw, the
Shaw Brothers
films,
the Chinese kung fu movies. My favorite brand of kung fu films come from the Shaw Brothers. They make the absolute best. You wouldn't have Jackie Chan without Shaw Brothers. I'm just saying. They're the ones that created kung fu comedy and horror. Anyway, I wanted to talk for a minute about what's his name again? Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up. I want to make sure I say it right.
Masaki Kobayashi?
Hanshiro, no, the actor who played Hanshiro Sugumo, whose name is Tatsuya Nakata.
Oh yeah, Nakata. Yeah, he's a really good actor.
He is awesome, which by the way, he's going to return for one of our other films. I believe it's actually he returns in the other film that you picked, Justin, which we'll get to, because we can't do this month without this particular director. But he's also in another cool one called Keiji Musha. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's another great one.
I think he's because when I saw him appear, I was like, wow, this guy looks familiar, and I was like, he's probably one of the few actors in this particular film that I actually recognized. And then when I looked him up a little bit ago, I was like, oh, okay, he's that guy. He does all this. And it was funny. I'm jumping around. I apologize. But you were saying about, you've watched all these movies. We always make that joke that you are the Criterion guy. You love your Criterion films. Like, they're the quintessential for you. Whereas I'm like the trash guy. I love my fun, out there, ridiculous movies. We have a lot of the same tastes and likes, but we also have a completely different set of films. But I will say this. All the samurai movies that I've watched are Criterion. So I think one time you asked me, do you watch Criterion movies? And I was like, I've only seen the samurai films. Because I think that's the only thing in Criterion that I've ever watched.
They have most of them.
Almost every fucking movie that's Criterion is every samurai movie just about is Criterion.
And Chuck was saying the French New Wave movies, Criterion pretty much has all of them.
Yeah. Because they were good at the time. The Criterion, the early films, I believe, should be Criterion. A lot of films in the 60s and 70s that are Criterion should be, because they were new waves of filming. They were new styles and techniques, and they were also beautiful and simplistic. That's what makes samurai movies so cool, is that each one, yes, you know what you're getting into, but they are so uniquely different while carrying the same essence and theme. At least that's how I feel, but I'm just a big fan, so what do I know?
But I'm thinking, when did Americans actually see this movie? Because I don't think that they would have seen it in
the
1962.
90s when they started. Yeah, in the 90s when they started releasing.
Probably got re-released
I think
later.
samurai films became popular in the 90s when straight to DVD started releasing Criterion samurai films. Because I know that's when Kurosawa became popular. He was revitalized when Criterion was like, here's all the Kurosawa
and Martin
films.
Scorsese too was like, hey, here's our idol, and him and George Lucas helped make Dreams, which I mean, it's not a bad movie.
Tarantino brings that stuff back too.
I saw somebody describe this as something that looks like it would have inspired Tarantino. Non-linear storytelling, the violence, the cool dialogue.
It's straight up Reservoir Dogs.
I don't know, he's never talked about this movie. Of all the movies that he talks about, he never mentions this movie, so...
He probably just respects it so much that he doesn't want anyone to...
I mean, your pick, he clearly saw your pick.
Yeah, what is your pick? We can discuss Chuck's pick, right? Because it's the next one we're covering.
Well, I mean, he clearly saw your pick, Jacob.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's called,
Yeah, like he's
it's called
gotta-
Kill Bill.
Now, are there any more fucking questions about my heritage?
He's clearly seen that, and
Lucy Liu's the best.
Yeah, she is.
he's definitely seen Shogun Assassin.
Oh yeah.
Those two movies are like, oh, he's definitely seen those films.
I know he owns the Beverly, which I finally got to go and experience. I don't know, did I get to talk about this during Spaghetti
No.
Western Month? I actually finally got to go to the Beverly Cinema, and it's awesome. I loved it. As a movie nerd, it was cool to go there. I went for a double feature of Fright Night and Night of the Creeps, and it was such a great time. And the original cast and crew, or some of them, came out for Fright Night, so it was really neat to see that. And then at the next night, they were going to have a special thing with them.
Did you see
For
Ed?
the premiere, they were there. No. I was just there for that movie the first night. They only had a few people there, but the next night they were going to do a special Fright Night thing where they had like the whole shebang was going to be there, like the whole crew and
Was
everything.
it like, did you see Chris Sarandon? Like, who was there?
I don't know. Oh, from Fright Night,
Yeah,
I saw.
I don't remember the main character.
I'm-
I don't
yeah, I'm
remember who
having-
that is.
I'm having a bit of a brain fart of the name, so I apologize. But the main young boy and young girl, the two main
Yeah.
heroes. Actually, I saw all three: the boy, the girl, and the goofy friend.
Eddie, he was there.
Yeah, the director was there. It was really cool getting to see Tom. That was awesome. And then his wife was there with him. And I think that was it. It was just like a brief, like they just happened to be there in town already, and then they were like, "Yeah, we're just here, so we wanted to come down." They're like, "The rest are flying in for the event tomorrow, but we were here tonight. And we wanted to sit in the audience with you." So it was kind of cool. Like, and it was cool watching these movies at the Beverly because it's like you're there with movie people that love the experience. So like everyone's laughing and chuckling at moments and freaking out and popcorn flying. It was a really cool experience. So I'm sorry to derail this conversation, but
No,
my
it's
point
nice to hear that. I don't get that. I occasionally I have to go to the waterfront to watch a A24 movie with a bunch of white guys with A24 t-shirts.
Oh my
and-
god, that's the worst. But my point of bringing up the Beverly Cinema was because Tarantino owns it. They have samurai movies that play all the time, and so yeah, what Chuck was saying, I'm surprised I haven't seen Harakiri show up here yet. But yeah, I know he's a fan of.
I
of
follow
samurai
them, so
films.
I see on Facebook like we're doing this movie, we're doing that movie.
Get your ass to LA, and we will go
Yeah.
to the Beverly.
All right.
And that's our episode. That's it.
They'll be playing something terrible, and it's like how'd they book that one?
They knew
The
Justin
worst
was coming,
movie
so
of
they
all time or
specifically
something.
played the worst French New
Yeah.
Wave Criterion film.
He plays everything there though.
He
plays,
does. It's movies.
It
It's
goes
just-
from the
it's
high, the
movies.
most
I love it.
highbrow to the lowest lowbrow. Like it doesn't matter if he has it in 35 millimeter or something. He's gonna fucking play it.
And that's the cool thing too about the Beverly. For those who don't know, is they're all in 35 millimeter film format. They're all film. They're no digital. And if there is a digital, there's a reason for it, and they usually explain it to you. And it's like you don't have to explain. Just play the movie, man. I'm cool.
Yeah, they need to explain everything now.
Enough plugging for
Yeah,
the
I want
Beverly.
I want
for
an
him.
explanation. Our next film, it's Sword of Doom,
Greatest title for a samurai movie ever.
It really is.
The Sword of
starring
Doom.
our same guy.
Yeah.
He's
No,
in 3
what?
of these films.
Yeah.
No, he's probably going to be in mine too. Let me look mine up real quick.
You want to double check that he
had a
didn't
great
randomly
career.
pop up in that somewhere?
He's one of the guys that gets off in the elevator somewhere. No, this dude had a great career.
He's in everything. Like,
He really
isn't
is.
he the bad guy in Yojimbo too? Like, or
I
one
think
of
so.
them.
Yeah, and he also plays Yakuza dudes. He plays the Yakuza Mafia movies. He's not just a samurai actor. He does the Yakuza movies.
He also plays a lot of good goofy characters too. Like his range is all over the place.
He's versatile.
He is very versatile.
He's very much like the actor in Shogun who plays the Shogun. I love that guy. That guy is versatile. He's the dad from, or not the dad, but
He's
sort
the
of
dad.
He's the dad from The Ring, the original.
Yeah, I think that's where he got his start.
That's where he got his start
That was,
because The
I,
Ring
I
was.
feel like that's the oldest thing I've seen him in.
Yep.
He's like the go-to Japanese American. He was in like the Avengers movies and
English is perfect. His Japanese is perfect, and then his English with a Japanese accent is perfect. The guy has range.
he's like the showrunner also for Shogun. They are going to at least make one more, if not two more seasons out of nothing.
No, they can. The story continues because what we were told was based off the book. The book just gets to the point where he becomes the shogun. It's all about him bringing back the shogun era. But his story continues for 20 more years, and also for 14 of those 20 years, the white guy's involved.
They got the writer of the book to help write the other seasons, but they don't have any more source material.
Yes, they do. It's called the history books.
He literally doesn't have any more. Maybe he's not a fan of history because history lies.
As we learned in today's movie.
In Harakiri, yeah.
Harakiri. And we wrapped it all back. We came back to it.
And we'll be back next week with Sword of Doom, which is another great movie.
I just have to say, this was an excellent choice, Justin. Great pick. Great way to start off this month of samurai films with an anti-samurai movie. For me, this is probably the most thoughtful, toned down, well done film that you'll ever see me praise, where it's like, no, this is actually like, when I say this is a good movie, for once I'm not saying that in a way like, yeah, it's fun, I loved it, but it's garbage, you probably won't like it. No, I mean, like, this is genuinely a fucking masterpiece. It's really, really, really good.
It's one of the movies that Kobayashi, who's not made that many movies, if I had made this movie, and I have only made like a handful of movies, I'd be so proud that this was the movie that I made.
Hell, me too.
I think this is his first samurai movie too, and his first period piece, and he blows it out of the water.
That's great. And then to follow this movie up with his horror movie, Kwaidan, I highly recommend it. I actually, I got that on Blu-ray randomly because I don't know.
Sorry, this is funny. Blu-ray.
Blu-ray. My Japanese accent kicked in, I guess. I don't know. It was great. I got it randomly because I was on a kick from Onibaba and all these other crazy black and white horror films. That one popped up, and when I watched it, I was like, oh, it's in color and it's visually beautiful. So it's actually like it's his first film he did right after this one, and it's in color. And again, cinematically, the lighting, this man knows what he's doing.
Probably the best color movies of that era too, not just Japan, of the 60s.
Yeah. I would say Kwaidan and House are my favorite Japanese.
You would
horror
love House.
films. House is brilliant.
How can
House
we
is
not
a
like
great
House?
movie.
The Alice in Wonderland cat, come on, that shit's dope.
House is perfect.
The watermelon.
Chuck, thank you. Oh my god,
The random like soap opera music that just plays. when
Yeah.
the
it's
girls
the
just
best
stick
for
running around.
atmosphere.
It's so great.
It
I love that
creates
movie.
atmosphere.
The effects are all great. I love
There's-
the.
You can still see the strings. I
they're
love it.
so, yeah.
You can. It's so good.
Didn't they reference the piano thing in the one of the Mario games? Isn't that the one where the piano like attacks you, like comes to life and tries to eat you?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I'll find out and I'll add to it, and I'll watch The Haunted Samurai and tell you if it's worth your time, because it was like, it sounds like total garbage, but maybe it's awesome.
You got me sold on it. The title alone, I'm like, oh, The Haunted Samurai,
Okay.
count me in. Like, I would, if you were to tell me, Jacob, we're gonna watch Harakiri and The Haunted Samurai, I would have watched The Haunted Samurai first, just based off the title alone. And then I still would have been like, my God, why did I wait for Harakiri? It's amazing.
It's got a great cover.
Yeah, the cover alone, man. I'm telling you, I'm gonna have to just get this movie. I can't afford to buy right now, but I will rent it on Amazon Prime if I.
It's a little dark in here. It's I was trying to pull Haunted Samurai off my shelf, and I'm like, I can't see. I mean, like the H's are
Have your
somewhere
red
here.
photo light in there.
I'm like,
Trying to get your fucking pictures to print. You got that red light back there.
it's gonna be a great month. Thanks for being on. Do you want to plug anything, K. Jacob?
Yeah, I mean, I do have this other show that I could plug. It's called IPA Sessions. It's a podcast for independent artists. Justin and Chuck have both been on the show. Justin twice. So Chuck, whenever you're ready, come on again and have some fun. But I love it. It's great. It's an opportunity for me to help showcase independent artists, whether you're a filmmaker, an actor, a writer, a dancer, a singer, a musician of any sort, a stunt person, an actual artiste that works with paint and brush and sculpting, just any form of art out there. And I include people. I recently have an episode coming out for the 4th of July. So
So it's out now.
I have a perfect. I'll start over. I currently have a 4th of July special out right now. It's an Independence Day special with Tari. She is a soap maker. She creates all this awesome soap products. It's a great episode, a great interview. I have music producers out. I have a stand-up, not stand-up. I have a stand-up comedian coming, but I have an improv comedian out right now. It's all video format as of the new season, but I have a ton of archived episodes you can go back and listen to in audio form. But it's just a great place to check out some indie artists, support them, check out their work. And that's my show. It's awesome. Check it out. And I love being here because I'm a film nerd like you guys. And I love talking movies, especially now that you're finally covering spaghetti westerns and samurai films. I'm on board, baby.
And it's only going to get better.
It's only going to get better because we're going to revisit kaiju, right? Because you are my kaiju brother.
I hope to. We will, but not specifically that genre. We're going kind of genreless.
We're doing genre. I love genre.
One point.
Why be formulaic? Let's go genre.
We're gonna get wild. That's all I can say. We're gonna.
I'm excited. Then I have the perfect kaiju when you're ready.
Is it War of the Gargantuans?
Son of a bitch.
Is it?
Yeah, it's so weird. I love it. It's so terribly weird. But I think you guys covered that one, right?
Yeah.
It's a great movie. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being on, Jacob.
Yeah. Always a pleasure.
We're Cinema D'Amore. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with news and information on upcoming episodes. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, Pandora, Alexa, or iHeartRadio. It would be greatly appreciated if you subscribe to our podcast on your platform of choice. We also appreciate feedback, so rate us, review us, and let us know what you think. And above all else, thank you for listening.